I looked at her across the table. My heart was pounding. I had to say something. We've been together for 10 years. A whole decade. But recently, things have started to change. I've changed. When we first met, I was just a guy working at a call center. No real direction, no big dreams. But I've worked hard since then. I taught myself new skills. I switched jobs. I built a stable career. And now I'm in a much better place. I'm proud of that. But her path has been different. 2 years into our relationship, she quit her job. She wanted to pursue a degree. I supported her. I wanted her to succeed. But that degree didn't lead to a job. So she started another one. And that hasn't gone anywhere either. Right now, I'm covering about 80% of our expenses. It's wearing on me. I feel the pressure every day, budgeting everything, thinking twice about groceries. I can't move forward the way I want. I imagined saving money by now. Maybe buying a house, having some financial breathing room. But that's not happening. And here's the hard part. I love her. She's not a bad person. She's struggling. I know that. But I'm starting to feel tired. Resentful, even. I hate admitting that. And I feel guilty for thinking this way. I don't want to hurt her or make her feel judged, but I don't think I can keep going like this forever. So, how do I tell her? How do I have an honest conversation? I want to be fair, supportive. But I need to talk about this imbalance. My frustration is growing, and I need to figure out my limits. What happens if nothing changes? I looked at her again. My stomach twisted. I love her. But am I outgrowing her? And if I am, what do I do about it? So there I was, sitting at that table, my heart racing. I knew I couldn't just sit in silence anymore. I thought back to all those late nights she spent studying, the sacrifices she made to chase her dreams. I admired that about her. But I also couldn't ignore the reality of our situation. I knew I had to say something, but finding the right words felt impossible. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Hey," I started, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked up from her phone, meeting my eyes with curiosity. "We need to talk," I said, trying to sound calm and not like the bundle of nerves I felt inside. She put her phone down, sensing that this wasn't just small talk. I could see the concern flicker across her face. "What's up?" she asked, her voice soft, almost hesitant. I swallowed hard. "I've been thinking about where we are, financially, I mean, and how I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed." There it was, out in the open, hanging between us like a heavy cloud. She nodded slowly, not saying anything yet, just listening. I appreciated that. I've been covering most of our expenses for a while now, and it's starting to weigh on me. I didn't expect to feel this way, but it's been building up, you know? She nodded again, a small frown forming. I could tell she was processing what I was saying. "I didn't realize it was that bad," she said quietly. "I guess I've been so focused on my studies and trying to figure out my career path that I didn't see how much it was affecting you." There was a pause, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "I've been so caught up in my own struggles, I didn't see yours." Her acknowledgement was a relief, but it didn't erase the tension. I knew this was just the beginning. "I love you," I said, wanting to make sure she knew that. "But I need us to figure this out together. I want to support you, but I also need to make sure we're both moving forward." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of emotions, understanding, worry, and maybe a bit of fear. "I want that too," she replied. "I'll do whatever I can to help ease the burden. Maybe I can look for something part-time while I finish my degree, just to contribute more." It was a step, a small one, but a step nonetheless. I nodded, feeling a bit of the weight lift off my shoulders. "Let's figure it out together," I said, trying to sound hopeful. We had a long road ahead, but at least we had started the conversation. We talked for a while longer, hashing out ideas and plans. She suggested revisiting her resume, maybe even seeking advice from a career counselor. It felt good to brainstorm solutions together instead of letting the issue simmer unaddressed. As we talked, I realized how much I missed this. Working as a team, like we used to. It reminded me why I fell in love with her in the first place. Her determination was still there, just buried under layers of uncertainty and setbacks. I offered to help her with the job search, maybe even connect her with some of my professional contacts. She seemed relieved, grateful even, and I was glad to see some of the worry ease from her face. We decided to set small, achievable goals, things we could tackle together, but there was still this nagging feeling in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the worry that things wouldn't change fast enough, or at all. I didn't want to become resentful again, and I hoped she wouldn't feel pressured or rushed. I knew there'd be bumps ahead and we might not have all the answers right away, but for the first time in a while I felt hopeful. We were finally on the same page, ready to face our challenges head on. As we wrapped up our conversation, I looked at her and smiled, feeling more connected than I had in months. "Thanks for listening," I said, "and for being willing to work through this with me." She smiled back, a hint of her old spark returning. "Of course," she said. "We're in this together, right?" We both knew this was just the beginning, but it was a start, and that was enough for now. I felt a little lighter, a bit more at ease, knowing we were tackling this together. But deep down, a question lingered, one I couldn't quite shake. What if we can't grow together? I kept thinking about that question long after our conversation. The next few days were a blur of tiny changes and adjustments. We started going over our budget together, being more mindful about our expenses. She did update her resume. Turned out it just needed a bit of polishing. We even spent a Saturday afternoon sifting through job listings, and she applied for a few part-time gigs. There was this one evening, though, that really struck me. She came home, excitement in her eyes, telling me she'd gotten a call for an interview. It was just a part-time position, but it was something. Seeing her excited again, like she had a new sense of purpose, it brought a warmth to my chest. It reminded me of when we first met, when everything seemed possible. But every step forward seemed to bring a new doubt. I found myself wondering if these small changes would be enough. Financially, we were still tight, and I knew it'd be a while before we could really relax. I could see her trying, though, and that mattered. We were communicating more, checking in with each other, and that, at least, felt like progress. Still, there were moments when I'd catch myself worrying. What if this wasn't just a phase? What if we were on different paths, ones that wouldn't converge no matter how hard we tried? I didn't want to think like that, but the thought lingered at the edges of my mind. I tried focusing on the positive. She was more engaged, more present, and I could see her determination coming back. She even started talking about her career dreams again, things she'd put on the back burner. It was like watching someone rediscover themselves, and I felt proud of her for that. One night, as we were lying in bed, she turned to me and said, "Thank you for pushing me. I didn't realize how much I needed it." It was simple, but it meant the world to me. I squeezed her hand, feeling a surge of affection. "We'll figure this out," I promised, and I meant it. But that question, it was still there. It was the elephant in the room, the one thing I couldn't fully ignore. Were we really moving forward together? Or were we just delaying the inevitable? I hoped it was the former, but doubt can be persistent. In the end, I knew we had to keep talking, keep being honest with one another. Maybe that was the real challenge, balancing love and reality, hopes, and hard truths. But as we drifted off to sleep, I held on to the hope that we were on the right track, that we could grow together, not apart. Yet, deep down, I couldn't help but wonder, what if love isn't enough? As the days turned into weeks, we settled into this new rhythm. It was a mix of cautious optimism and underlying uncertainty. I tried to stay focused on the positives, like how she was actively looking for work and even landed that part-time job. It wasn't much, but it was a start. She was contributing more, and I could see her sense of self-worth slowly returning. It made a difference, at least emotionally. We kept working on our finances together, trying to stretch every dollar. It was tough, but it was something we did as a team. Those little moments of cooperation felt like tiny victories. And yet, there was this undeniable undercurrent of tension. It was like we were both afraid to break the fragile balance we'd managed to find. Then came the day she got a call for another interview. This time, for a position more aligned with her degree. She was over the moon, and I felt genuinely happy for her. It seemed like a real opportunity, a step towards something more stable. But for every hopeful moment, there was a shadow of doubt. Would this be the turning point we needed, or another false start? The interview came and went, and she got the job. It was full-time, a real career move. We celebrated that night, a quiet dinner at home, just the two of us. I saw the spark in her eyes, the one I remembered from when we first met. For the first time in a long while, I felt we were truly moving forward. But even with this progress, the question never fully left me. I found myself thinking about it in quiet moments, wondering if we were strong enough to overcome the challenges. We loved each other. That was clear. But was love enough to bridge the gap that had formed over the years? We decided to set new goals for ourselves, both individually and as a couple. It felt like laying down a path for us to follow. We talked about the future more openly, discussing our dreams and fears. It was liberating and terrifying all at once, but it was necessary. We had to be honest, or else risk drifting apart again. As we lay in bed one night, she turned to me and said, "I'm really grateful for you, you know. I wouldn't have pushed myself without your support." Her words were a balm, a reminder that we were still in this together. I squeezed her hand and whispered, "We're making it work. Slowly, but surely." Despite everything, the question lingered. It was a quiet, persistent whisper in the back of my mind. Were we truly on the same path now? Or were we just delaying the inevitable? I didn't have the answer, and maybe that was okay for the moment. We had come a long way, and there was a sense of mutual understanding and renewed commitment between us. But as I closed my eyes, letting sleep take over, that question followed me into my dreams, relentless and unyielding. What if love isn't enough?